Welcome to the Rogue L&D podcast, allowing you to meet some of the brilliant folk driving people performance and development forward in an informal and human way. My name's Tom Bailey, award-winning L&D leader and passionate maverick for all things development. Join me as I ask questions of some of the industry's most innovative and interesting people. Over to you to kick us off.
All right, Tom. Hey, great to catch up. I'm just wondering, Tom, with your permission, is it all right to do a karakia to start off tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, this is something that we do in New Zealand, we do in our community. So, karakia to start. Kia tuturu tātou, kia mana ki tātou, kia whaihiranga tātou, kia tu hono tātou, whanō, haramai te toki, haumie hui e tāiki e. And Tom, what's that is in English is let's be real. It translates to let's be real, let's be caring, let's pursue excellence, let's connect. Join together and affirm our agreement. We are united in purpose and we are ready to proceed.
Beautiful. Thank you. Those dulcet, insightful and inclusive words are Darryn Gray, who I am delighted to join me today on the Rogue L&D podcast. Thank you so much for making the time, Darryn, and thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Tell us more about it.
It's an interesting concept. So I've been on a journey for a number of years. So I'm not Māori descent. I've been a very much in a learning position over the years. And what happened traditionally, if there was a meeting, if there was a learning event, if there was a significant activity going on in Māoridom, you karakia into it. So karakia, it loosely translates prayer, but it's more like an incantation. So it's not a religious kind of prayer. And if we talk about learning, because we'll do that today, often in a wānanga, which was a learning event, so a significant learning event, a karakia would be at the start because it helps you transition from what Māori called noa, or the normality of the day, into a tapu or a sacred space. And learning was always regarded as a sacred space, a special space. So the karakia at the start almost is like a state change. It helps you change state to go, well, we're going to move from what we were doing into the sacred space now. We were going to do some learning and then we'll do our business of the day, whatever it is. And then at the end, you karakia out again. So you do the opposite transition. You go from the sacred space and then back out into normality, whatever normality is.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's the first time that we've had Māori spoken on on the Rogue L&D podcast. And I think...
Here we go.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. And I think on that bombshell, we should probably introduce you, Darryn. So obviously, Crackin LnD that we're going to talk a lot about, but tell us about you. What are the things that people know you for?
Oh, good question. I'll try and keep it short because it could probably go on, because as you can tell, I've been around for a while. I currently work as a learning designer, facilitator and coach with a background in primary education. So I started out life primary teacher, climbed the ranks as you do through to school principalship, leadership a couple of times. And then after a while in the education sector, I moved into the public service and moved across into our Ministry of Education. So I was a number of years there working in both regional positions, senior positions within national office. And then I kind of got ready for a bit of a change, Tom, you know, as you do. After about, I think it was about 11 years of doing that, started thinking about going contracting, consulting, and thinking, what can I do that's different to teaching? What can I do that's different to being a public service? And I thought, like a lot of people do, about those transferable skills. And I thought, well, I'm passionate about learning. I love learning. I love trying to work out how do we get learning going for people where it hasn't been going that well. What does it look like when you do that with adults? And I thought, well, maybe I'll transition across to the L&D space. In about 2019, I think it was, I got my first true L&D role. I was a principal advisor, professional development in our child protection agency. And that's where I started to transition across now into L&D. So I'm kind of, I suppose, a bit of a newbie to L&D, but I've been learning all my life. Some would say I've never left school from the day I turned 5, I suppose. So now I work much in that space. And of course, we've got Crackin LnD, which we're getting known for a little community down under.
Now, we should explain that Crackin LnD, which I really, really, really love. And that's where we met. You set up Crackin LnD. Now, Crackin LnD is an ANZ community. It's organic. It's grassroots. We don't pay you anything and you still let us get together and talk to each other and learn from each other. It's for learning and development professionals. And I'd probably say, actually, it's more than just learning and development. It's anyone in that kind of development space, whether you're academic or coaching or whatever. How do you sum up Crackin LnD, though?
Oh, gosh, how do you sum it up? That's a good question. It's an exciting space, like it really is. It's a community. I guess if I go back to, I'm going to use another term here, Tom. If we go back to its whakapapa, why did we set it up? Maybe we start there. Whakapapa is like a genealogy, it's history. And it started, where I wanted to start it is we were going into New Zealand into a bit of a restructure period, a bit of cuts in public service. Now we know when that happens, L&D teams always get hit. And so this is 2024, and I thought, gosh, if that's going to happen, how do we get connected in the L&D space? How do we do that where it's really low barrier access, so hence the free bit? How do we do that? How do we get connected? How do we get networked? How do we start having some really good, continue some really good conversations about learning and development? And then I thought, okay, well, maybe we need a community. Let's do something. And at that stage, there was a lot of things I was seeing, events that I wanted to go to, but I was asleep. And so we thought, well, let's try and do some things in a down under time that might work. And so I thought, we'll give it a go. I procrastinated like you do for a few months. And then it got to the middle of the year and I thought, let's give it a go. And I thought, I wonder how can we do this and connect across Australia and New Zealand? Can we do that, being that, there's good camaraderie between Kiwis and Aussies. So let's get connected and let's see how we can support each other. And that's what Crackin LnD started out with. I wanted it to be free because that was really important. I wanted it to be low barrier access. So we run pretty low tech, runs on my Zoom account and my Miro account, a bit of LinkedIn kind of here and there. We started like that and we've been going now we can almost say just under 2 years. It's exciting. So how would I sum it up? It's an exciting space. It's an energy-giving space. I don't ever think about wanting to be paid to do it because that's not the thing. Yeah. That's not the reason for existing. I never intended it and do not ever intend it to be a money-making venture. No. It's a community of us kind of working out, look, how do we crack the L&D space? How do we get good conversation going? Did that answer your question?
It does answer my question, but and I think if the listeners don't know what Crackin LnD is, I would strongly recommend that they check it out. You run events, because you're L&D folk, you run events throughout the week. You've got a book club, you've got munch and lunch, you get to know, it's I don't want to say it's socialist because I might turn people off, but it really is, there's no hierarchy to it. So everyone has got a voice, everyone can take turns talking about their experience and sharing their experience. I think that's what I like about it. It is a community that is fair. It's a community that's not commercial, as in no one's got a hidden agenda to make money off it. It's literally there to support. So I heavily advocate for the community. I think it's wonderful what you do. And we should probably call out Kylie Sturday at this point. So your Australia equivalent, who's based here in Sydney, who is also excellent, and you too. And there's someone else, isn't there?
Yeah, we got Lee. So one of the interesting things was, I started, and honestly, Tom, when I started, I thought, look, 40, 50 people might want to join in. And then it grew kind of quite quickly. I thought, I'm going to need some people to give me a hand with this. So I reached out to a couple. Kylie was one of them. And then there's Lee Turner, who is New Zealand based. And Lee does a lot of our graphics work and stuff in the background for us. And it's just amazing. And we've got a really cool little core team now. And I have to also call out to my partner because, my partner is on our core team as well. And she's the one who I'm sitting there lots of times and go, I wonder about this. I wonder about that. And we have Bear the Cavoodle.
You do.
Bear the Cavoodle is our chief people coach. Because he's really good at giving feedback. So, and he features quite a bit.
He does. We were talking before we started, and I was saying how much I love Bear being on the official, I don't know, what do you call it? The website and your infomercials and advertisements. I do quite like that you got a little dog there because he works well. Look, I want to call out something that I noticed before. So I went to an event here. I can't remember when it was, but it was the one that Jess Almaty went to. Who, if listeners haven't heard of Jess Almaty, check her out. She's got a brilliant podcast. She's just written a book as well. And I thought that was amazing. That was such a scoop that you got Jess almost before she released her book, before she kind of went into the stratosphere in terms of popularity in L&D. You got her first. And that's not an isolated incident. You attract, it's like cult following. You get the big hitters in, but you don't shout about it. So there's an added incentive to come along.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a few. We call them our honorary Down Under guests, because the one thing when we started it is that we wanted to keep it contained to our geographical area. That was something important. We discussed that as a community early on, is who do we exist for? And clearly it was across New Zealand, Australia. We kind of extended a little bit for Pacific Islands. And so we do have a few people that are in there as international guests. Jess is one of them, Anna Maria from LnD Shakers, Lavinia. There's a few and there's a handful in there. So we call them our honorary Down Under guests, so they get Down Under status when they join. And it's really cool because we can connect in with them, because I think what we try and balance is that we wanted to develop that, how do you explain it? We wanted to develop that feel that we are a down under community, that we exist here. But also we wanted to recognise that sometimes it's great to have other people come in and talk to us so that you get challenged with your thinking and things like that. So yeah, there's a handful there. And you know what, Tom, I learned a colleague that's Wellington-based, which is where I'm based, challenged a wee while ago, because I'm a bit of an introvert. Reaching out for me is hard.
Rubbish. No one can believe that, surely.
Absolutely, totally. Yeah, if I need to recharge my batteries, give me a book, give me a rock, and I'll go and hide under my rock and read my book. But reaching out used to be really hard. And this person said to me one day, we're talking about it, because he did it really well. And I said, what do you do? How do you do it? And he said, you just do it, because the only thing that can happen is they can say no. But they might say yes. And so I really adopted that. And now within Crackin LnD, building your profile on LinkedIn and stuff like that, I don't worry about reaching out, because I go, well, okay, I can reach out. What's the worst that can happen? They'll say no.
100%.
What's the cool thing that can happen? They'll join in.
And it's so funny, because I've found that with my own podcast, and because we talked about it, it just started as something that I was just interested in, talking to people who wrote books that I thought were interesting. That's literally outside. And what I found is, even though I thought they were complete superstars, leaders in L&D aren't like, in movies. They're not even that famous, but they are incredibly gracious, broadly speaking. Yeah. People in L&D are really kind with their time, and most people will say yes, even though you feel like you're kind of, can I ask this person? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
They'll nearly always say yes. I think one person has said to me a lot, I really haven't got the time for it, which is pretty amazing odds when you think about how many episodes I've had.
It's pretty good going.
And yeah, I think that's great, and a great message for anyone who is a bit more introverted. Just ask. Literally, the worst that can happen is they say no. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm interested because you have got deep history, and I would say that whilst you might not call it L&D, education is very, very adjacent, right? So what's really interesting you in the innovative L&D space at the moment?
I think it's the conversation that we're having around supporting people in change, supporting people to do things differently. Because there's this, there's the big conversation going on at the moment of going, is L&D about content, or is it about whatever? And what's the impact of AI, that and all that kind of thing? And I've been thinking about it, as everybody has lately. But you know what? I've got a piece of work at the moment where we're developing a capability framework. And you know what? I can use tools to help me, but the critical thing at the end of the day is we need to be able to support people to change what they do sometimes. So if you're working with a business or an organization or whatever it is, if that an organization wants to improve what it's doing, that requires people to change, to do something. Now, we can use AI tools to help us design that kind of thing, but at the end of the day, that's about how we have conversations. It's about how we design the frameworks around it, well, not just the frameworks, but it's how we implement that thing of how do you support people to change in a fast-moving, overwhelming world at the moment. So I don't know if I really answered the question in terms of what you're intending, but I think that's what's going through my mind a lot at the moment, because it's the human bit that we're all struggling. It's that human bit that we're all going, what's the humanness that's going to survive all of this tech picking up and doing stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've mentioned AI. Well done. There's someone with a bingo card winning. But you're absolutely right. And it's funny, I was having a conversation about this the other day, how our role in learning and development, and maybe even broader in HR, is to advocate for the human. So IT generally in corporates owns the AI adoption, and increasingly functions are getting involved, but I feel like they're still steering the ship to an extent. Our job is to advocate for the human in that, the human experience.
Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, what we're going to end up with is not going to help many people. So yeah, I think it's a great point and highly salient at the moment. What does really light you up then in learning and development? I know you love your community, but what's your big crusade?
I think what lights me up is when you see change happening. When you do that thing, whether it's through a one-off event, whether it's through a series, whether it's through whatever you've designed, you know that you've made a difference. And you know what really lights me up, Tom, and this probably comes back into my education background. So when I was a teacher, I worked in kind of mid to low socioeconomic schools. There were often kids in there that were struggling with their learning. Learning with them was really hard. That was often, all sorts of things associated with that. When you found ways to turn on the learning light and you saw a kid or someone suddenly discover that, hey, I can do this with the right support, with the right conditions, I can do this thing. And I've carried that through now with me right into my L&D work. It still really floats my boat. When you do something and you see somebody do something differently, and you know what it's like for adult learners, we have so much more baggage with us, eh? When you see someone go, I thought this was going to be really hard. I thought I couldn't do it. They work through that process. The whole challenging stuff that's in their mental models, all that kind of thing gets worked through, and then they do it. That's exciting. That's what lights me up. So when you see people doing things successfully they couldn't do, or they're doing something for the first time, or then they go off and they talk about it with a colleague or something, and then they show them what to do, that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
No, it's really cool. In my more recent years, I'm a bit more removed from the individual learner. And I think sometimes what I miss is exactly what you're talking about. When you see someone change, or that light bulb moment, they go, oh, yeah, no, right, yeah, wow. And their whole practice changes. I'm interested because I've never worked in education. Have you got a story of where that happened in schools? Because that's incredible. Yeah.
I do, actually. So I had the privilege back in when was it? It was the late 90s. I was in a deputy principal role. And again, it was kind of, we had deciles back then. So deciles went 1 to 10, 5 was about in the middle kind of thing. So it was kind of like around that sort of 4, 5 kind of area. So as DP, brand new school. So it was a horse paddock, turned it into a school. And one of the things that we did, because this was the cool thing about starting something new. We had no goats, we had no traditions. There was nothing before the school existed. So as a staff, we were able to really think hard about what we wanted learning to look like, how were we going to be, how would we work with the kids. And what we kind of discovered early on, somebody asked this beautiful question, and back at the time, the core phrase in education was, how could you make kids, there was, child-centered learning was the phrase. And somebody asked one day, what is it? What does it look like? And for us as a staff, that started a whole discovery around what's child-centered learning. Child-centered learning, if you do it right, was giving the curriculum to the kids. And so what we did, and we started with just a couple, it was a good old change project, eh? There was a few of us, we started with this idea and we're going, well, what if we really did toss the curriculum over to the kids? Like as teachers, we got out of the way and we stopped being the, what's that saying? The sage on the stage, and we turned to the guide on the side. Yeah. So we really took that to heart, and we worked with the kids to create a model of learning. And the kids really bought into it. So we co-constructed this whole model. We opened the curriculum. They knew the curriculum as well as we did. And we would have visiting teachers coming in and things. And I can remember one kid in particular who hadn't had a lot of success. He had worked out what it was that he wanted to learn about. So it was a negotiated curriculum. We had negotiated the curriculum with him. He built his own unit plan. He built his own learning plan of what he wanted to learn, and he did it, and he had success. And when we had these visitors coming in the room on this particular day, he literally ran to the door and he grabbed them and was, come and look at what I've done. Come and look at what I've learned. And that was just amazing. And it showed, as teachers and educators, I think the lesson that I learned to that, as teachers, educators, L&D professionals, sometimes we just need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
How do we get the learners doing the learning instead of us kind of, presenting stuff and going, oh, here's the stuff to learn. Off you go, you good thing, go and do it.
Yeah.
It was so powerful.
Well, it's not just a beautiful story because we don't often see that or hear that. But what I love about it is the application that I would take from it from a corporate point of view is, we fuss over content sometimes. We fuss over how we deliver stuff. And actually, sometimes you just got to give people if they're motivated enough to do it, just give them the tools. They can do it.
Absolutely.
They will find a way.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be taught. And not everything has to be delivered through a workop or, heaven forbid, a webinar. So yeah.
Or a module.
Or a module.
We need another module.
Yeah. Or some more e-learning, definitely. But anyway, let's not go down that route. That's an incredible moment for sure. What is your proudest moment in the industry or in your experience?
My proudest moment, I think it does go back to the making a difference. I'm just trying to think if there's one proud moment, which sounds a bit big-headed, isn't there? But I think one of the things that is sitting there, so definitely the community, but the other thing that I was really proud of is a few years ago. So when we were talking before, and I said I'd transitioned from the education space into a learning space, and that was within our child protection agency. And at that stage, the agency was trying to move more Māori-centric in its approach. And I got the opportunity to develop a learning evaluation framework because we needed one. We were, which I think is still a problem today, but that's a discussion for another day, isn't it? Our team was struggling to show the value. And if anybody asked, we couldn't do it. So I got given the job to create an evaluation framework. And what happened beautifully in that process, I think sometimes by accident rather than good design, was we started going, okay, well, you can get all the Western information about learning evaluation frame, look and see what's out there, and you can do a quick Google and see what's topical at the moment. But we thought, but hang on, if we're not in alignment with where the organization is going, and we create a Western-based model and the organization is going different direction, we're going to be out of kilter. So I went back to the manager and I said, but hey, what if we look at Te Māori? So Māori worldview. What if we look there and we do a deep dive into what does learning look like from a Māori worldview thing? And can we find out what evaluation looked like? Turns out in Māoridom, they're actually connected like this. You don't disconnect them. It's us as Westerners that go, hey, there's learning and evaluation. So I think the thing that I was most proudest of in there was I got 6 months to then work with some people, I could find easily the Western people to work with. I got a whole bunch of time with some Māori colleagues to just talk and understand what learning looks like from another worldview that's not my worldview. And boy, did it unpack some biases, a whole bunch of stuff in there. And at the end of the day, we managed to get to a stage where we had genuinely really tried to create a braided model where we took a Western view and we took a Māori worldview and we tried to put them on their even platforms where they should be before the whole process of colonization obviously happened. We tried to value each one equally in its rightful place, and then we just let it braid. And kind of like there's a metaphor called the braided rivers, which is, in the Canterbury Plains down south, rivers start in the hills and then come down onto plateau and they braid. And so we leaned into that analogy of can you let two worldviews be honoured in their rightful place, let them flow and let them braid and see what happens when they braid, because then we always learn from other cultures, eh? And so when we learn that braiding bit, then the rivers part again. They carry on in their own way, but then they connect again. And so there's this mixing all the way, but they still stay valid in their own rightful place. So one doesn't become more important. So I think the most proud, proud, you can tell I'm kind of a bit pumped about it, but I think that was such a cool piece of work, because not only did I learn about learning evaluation, I learned about learning evaluation from another worldview. I learned that a lot of the things that we discovered in the 50s and 60s, Māori were doing pre-colonization times. Scaffolding learning, showing to be able to demonstrate learning, all that kind of stuff was happening 200 years ago. It was a really cool piece of work, and we got something that I think was pretty unique. I think there was It was pretty cool. It was pretty neat.
That leads me on to a question that's slightly off learning, but I think it's really important given the conversation. I've always been really impressed with the Kiwi approach to shared identity. If you grow up in New Zealand, you've got that shared identity. Wherever you're from, you've got that kind of Māori, Kiwi specific, which I don't think has translated in Australia. I don't see that same shared identity, if that's the right word. Where does that come from in New Zealand?
Oh, we were talking about this. So within Crackin LnD, we have a series called Whiria Te Tangata, which translates weaving the people. And it's led by one of our people, Claudia, who is a Māori people strategist, and she's amazing. And we were talking about this the other day, and I think it goes back to because we have the treaty, and that was, 1840, the treaty was signed. The treaty was pretty revolutionary back then, because you got to remember, Tom, the one interesting things that people don't pick up on is it was a treaty signed in peacetime. So there wasn't a war that came, unfortunately, that came afterwards. So I think because way back that partnership was tried to be established back then that's infused within some of the things that we do in New Zealand that's a little bit different. Do we do it perfectly? Definitely not. But I think we give it a go. So I think that's a point in difference, because we can anchor back to that when we're doing our work, and we can talk about partnership. And so the exciting piece about that evaluation bit that I learned most was, how do you genuinely partner in that space? And how do you stop doing, and I've just been having this conversation with someone today, how do you stop designing something over here that has a Western view? And that's my default position. So I've got to watch that all the time. How do I start doing that and then go, but we're just going to now kind of flavor it with this, as opposed to going, actually, I've got some stuff. What's that knowledge base? How do we put those together genuinely? So I think that's maybe where it comes to. But honestly, Tom, the one thing that I will say in this space, because I think it's important, whenever I talk about stuff in this space, as I said when we started out, I'm not Māori, I'm Pākehā, I'm what they call tangata tiriti, which is the partnership. So Māori is tangata whenua, I'm tangata tiriti. So anything I talk about in this space, I'm talking from a learned view. I'm not talking from a lived view. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, because I think that also helps us navigate the diversity inclusion space as well, when you can understand that actually I'm not working from lived experience, but I am trying to genuinely work, okay, how do I work from the learned experience?
Yeah, totally. And look, you are showcasing curiosity, which I think we all need to, certainly in our learning environments, it's one of the number one things that we're always trying to encourage is curiosity. Hey, look, we've gone very deep, and I want to ask you some slightly lighter questions. Before I do, I'm sure you've got something like this. And I'm reminded of one of the first Crackin LnDs I went to, where you were playing Bop in the waiting room from Hanson. And I'd had serious question marks about what I'd turned up to. What's one example, whether it's Crackin LnD or before, where things didn't go quite well? Like, what have you got any stories where maybe things didn't go to plan?
Oh God, there's lots of them. In fact, I had one. I had one the other night, and you want to see my my laptop screen? I've almost over prepared that I got notes all over it and things. So I do a lot of online facilitation, obviously virtual facilitation. It's my happy space. And the other night, I just had one of those. So I was away from home. I was away from my own setup. I was doing this intro for something, and my notes were all over the place. And so when I was doing the start of it, I was looking down in my notes. I was not looking at the screen. And when I saw the video afterwards, I was going, okay, I'm going to delete that from the video. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to delete it from the video, because what did you see? You saw this. And I'm reading from my notes, and I was going, okay, that was not ideal. So it's a small thing, but I think, what, again, lessons learned out of that, is that you can prep, you can do all your prep, and I was prepped, and you can just kind of go, something will just go wrong. And I think within learning, we were talking about this the other day as a group, in learning, you always got to have your plan B. Something will happen, something will go wrong, something will say something, the tech will die, like it did in a session that I was running a system training session the other day. The tech died. You just got to go, okay, how do you pivot? How do you do something else?
Stay agile. Absolutely. Great advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It reminds me, as you talk about virtual facilitation. How awful is it when you turn up to facilitate a session and there's no cameras on, everyone's muted, let's say 50 people, and you've got an hour of that. And I was speaking to someone the other day, actually, who very kindly shared this story, where they had the same experience, where they're talking about it, but they had nothing back for an hour, literally nothing.
Yeah, it's hard.
And now, to me, that's not facilitation. That's performance, because you're performing rather than facilitating, because no one else is involved. That is a very tough environment. Do you ever have that or experience that?
Yeah, totally. I've experienced it. I've been in it. I've probably been guilty of doing it myself and things. And it's really hard, but it comes back to, again, how you construct the learning experience, and how you try. And I think that the key within facilitation, with virtual facilitation anyway, is that I tend to go out on a limb here, Tom, but I still am convinced there's nothing you can do in a virtual space, or can't do in a virtual space, that you do in a face-to-face space. I think that came out right, eh? You just got to think differently. Yeah. You got to go, how might we make this work? So yes, I've had it, and yes, it's very hard, but you just got to box on. It's like sitting in a room. I often think about this. People talk about the cameras, cameras often there. Is go, how would we manage this if we were sitting in a room of people and half of them had paper bags on their heads? Because that's the equivalent. We just would not do it.
Can you imagine that? That'd be so weird.
It'd be weird. And we wouldn't do it. But yeah, we do it online.
Yeah. It's a tough brief for sure. Hey, what's your favourite hand gesture? I know you really want to answer this, and you've been waiting for this moment.
Wait, it's got to be this one.
Really? Double thumbs up?
Double thumbs up. How are we?
Nice.
Are we good? Are we K to Pi? Are we good? Are we fine? Is it going all right?
Clear signal.
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? I feel like we're in Flight of the Conchords now, but yeah. All right. And celebrity moment. Have you had a celebrity moment? Have you ever met anyone or had a story where you've had some interaction with someone famous?
We have. I was thinking about this and going, oh gosh, who has it be? So can't remember when it was. It was definitely pre-COVID. We were in Rome. We were in Italy. We were traveling around. We'd been to we'd done a bit of walking. We'd been to a pub, as you do. Walked out, and then we were going back to our hotel, and we had to cross this bridge to get to an island, and there were a couple of cops standing at the bridge. And so we just went up to them and said, hey, well, what's going on? And they said, oh, the Pope's coming along in a wee while. The Pope's going to be coming along and visiting the church, so you can't go over there at the moment because the road's closed. And we're going, oh, okay. And there was no one else there. And we said, well, can we stand here and can we watch? And they went, yeah, go for it. So we stood there for about half an hour. A bit of a crowd came up. The Pope mobile came around. Pope waved. We waved back. So we went to the road. We went to Rome. We went to a pub. We went for a walk, and we saw the pub. No, we saw the Pope.
Yeah,
we saw the Pope.
Was he? This is the current Pope, I take it.
Oh no, this was a few years ago.
Okay.
It was about 2 or 3 ago, I think.
Yeah, nice. So he was standing in the Pope mobile waving?
He was in his little Pope, he was in the car, but yeah, he waved and we waved. It was kind of like...
when they sit, they stand up sometimes for like events.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, how far do they have to go before they're allowed to sit down and just, get on with the journey? Because... I'm sure they draw a crowd. How long, where they're standing in the back? It's a specifically built car, isn't it? The Pope mobile. It's like
it is. Yeah, it's like a golf mobile on steroids.
Yeah. Well, apart from that, which obviously not many people knew that about you, what is it? And this is going to be difficult for you because you're in the community and loads of people know you. But what is one thing that not many people know about you?
This is a bit of a personal one, but it's an important one, and it relates back to an area of learning that I'm very passionate about. I have a significant hearing loss. So what people don't know is that I have an ear that just does not work. It's completely, it holds up my glasses, It's got a few earrings in it, and that's about as useful as it is. And why I put that, and I never used to talk about it. It happened, I got shingles years ago, and it just knocked out the auditory nerve. So it just kind of happened overnight, one of those things. Stuff happens, move on. What I find now, why I kind of want to kind of talk about that, is that's one of the reasons I get so passionate now about the virtual learning space, and why I like facilitating in the virtual space and doing the work that I do in that space. Because for me, it levels the playing field. I can function as well as anyone else in a virtual environment because I still only need the one ear. And with my headphones on, it doesn't make difference that one of them's not working. When I'm in a room, and I still do a lot of face-to-face facilitation, but I have to work so much harder. When I'm in a room and the noise levels get up, then that's a challenge for me because I can't filter sound anymore. You only hear in mono when you've only got one working ear. And so when I'm in a workshop, when I'm working groups and stuff like that, I am working so fast to work out, not just hear what is going on, but you're reading the room, you're reading the conversation, you're doing so much more to pick up on what you tend to miss because all the volume ends up being the same. A lot of people don't know that because I didn't talk about it for a while. But for me, I've just been reflecting on it recently, and it came up in a conversation. I thought that's why I really like the virtual learning space. For me, it's an inclusive space, and that's something to always remember when we're designing learning for our learners. Is, are we making it inclusive? Do we know sometimes? So it's one of the I think they do term it as a hidden disability, isn't it? Because you see me walking down the road, unless you spotted the tech that I sometimes wear on my ears, you wouldn't know.
No, I'm sure people who turn up to Crackin LnD events wouldn't know. And it credit to you. I mean, you've demonstrated you work around it brilliantly. But I do like how you've called out that inclusivity piece. So it gives you that understanding of maybe hidden disability or folks who are having a different experience. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Like it.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Before I ask you kind of the final question, how do people find out more about Crackin LnD if they don't know and they never heard about it, particularly if they're in ANZ? How can they engage?
Mainly if you go into LinkedIn. So we've got two spaces in there. We've got the private community, which is where a lot of our activity is generated. So you can go in and search Crackin LnD, and we'll see the private group listed. And then if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or the Pacific Islands, then you can click on the join button. It'll come through and we accept it. It's always really, really hard when somebody out of the area asks to join, but we talked about it as a community. We go, no, we're going to keep it to us. More recently, probably a few months ago now, we started a public site. So you can just go into LinkedIn and search for Crackin LnD. Remember, it's Crackin, not cracking, and you'll be able to bring up the public site. So it means that now, and the reason we did that is that if you don't meet the criteria for coming into the private group, you can still follow along in the public space, and anybody can join the public space. So that's the main space. We're still growing stuff, Tom. We haven't got a website yet and stuff like that because we're committed to growing the community where the community wants to go. And so, as I was saying before, we're very low tech, but it's very cool. You can tell I'm biased, eh?
Well, you can tell I'm biased
as well. Go for the T-shirt now, look.
you got merch, and I guess a call out. Look, you're on the road, you're mobile, so you will be in the AITD conference in Brisbane if anyone's going to that. Yeah. You've got you will be on stage for one of those events. What's the date of that?
We're on the last day towards the end. So Kylie and I will be there sharing a bit of our story. We're talking about communities of purpose.
Beautiful.
And how do you become a purpose-driven community, which is the bit that we're really focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes, but yeah, Crackin LnD with no G, heavily advocate it. Right, my last question.
Thank you.
Oh, you know that already. Darryn, what is the best advice that you'd give to folks in the LnD space based on your experience?
Build spaces where you get people learning together, not programs. The world's full of programs and things. Build the space where you can get people learning together, get genuine conversation. There was three I thought about this. Design for that behaviour change. It's not about just sharing knowledge, imparting knowledge. I think we've moved way past that, but we seem to be trapped in that a bit. And the most important one, totally biased, I've said it a few times, connect to a community, find your tribe.
Yeah.
Find your peeps that you can go and hang out with. And Tom, I would also encourage that, and if you can't find one, start one. If you can't find one, go find some peeps that you think you can kind of hang out and do some learning with.
Yeah. No, sage advice. And I fundamentally agree with it, because we are a people-based function and we learn so much from each other. Thank you so much for your time and so much learning that you've given us and given to me especially. Can I invite you to close this for us?
Oh, it would be a pleasure. And thank you for doing what you do. I mean, this conversation is great. The koha, the gift that you're giving to the profession is just amazing. So, just want to reciprocate there. This is an amazing podcast, and I love it. It's great. So it was an honor to be asked. So yeah, karakia to close. So this is the exit bit, which means now that we will move, and this one talks about it. We'll move back now into noa, which is that normal kind of state. So it goes like this. Kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, haumie huie tae ki e. And in English that says the restrictions are moved aside, so the pathways are clear to return to everyday activities. Kia ora, Tom.
Thank you to our guest and to you for listening. If you want to boost the impact of your organisation's people development practices, I'd love to connect. You can find me at thomasbailey.co. Alternatively, you can look me up on LinkedIn.